Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Chav Zayin Amud Beis at the very top. After the Gemara makes a lengthy discussion as to finding the source for where we know a zar can go ahead and do hefshet v'nituach. He can flay the skin of the oila as well as cut it into various parts. Now the Gemara says the following statement in regards to the zar Amar of Asi Amar B'yochanan. Zar shesider as hamarocha chayiv. If a non-kohen prepares the marocha, the pyre of the mizbeach, he's going to be chayiv misa b'dei shomayim. Ketzad hu oise? Ask the Gemara, what should he do if indeed he already was mesader the pyre? Porka v'choyze v'soidra. He should take it apart and then rearrange it. Ask the Gemara, Maya Hanile, how will this help the Ma'arocha if the Zar goes ahead and arranges it once again? Says the Gemara, Ella, no, Parka Zar v'soidra kohen. The Zar shall then take it apart, and the Kohen, he should arrange it. So this, of course, will help that the Ma'arocha is kosher, but the Zar that already was Mesadir, the Ma'arocha in the first place, so of course he's Chayiv Misa, Lefi Rabbi Yochanan. Maski flo Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera asks on Rabbi Yochanan's din that a zar who prepares the ma'aracha is going to be chayiv misa. Ask Rabbi Zera, v'chiyesh lecha avoida shekshera balayla upsula bezar. Is there any case that we find that an avodah is done at night, which is something that's kosher at night, can be posel, can be chayiv a zar chayiv misa? The Gemara asks, "V'loi, do we not find such a thing? V'harei evarim upedarim. We know evarim upedarim are burnt at night. It's an avodah at night, and yet that's one of the things that's listed, the hakdara, that the zar, the non-kohen, is going to be chayiv misa for. Everybody agrees to that, as we learned above. Gemara says, "Soif avodah the yamamahi." The evarim, the pedarim that burn on the mizbeach is the soif, it's the gemar of the avodah of the day before, and so therefore it's not considered to be an avodah that's ksheir balayla. Says the Gemara, "V'arei trumas hadeshin," but trumas hadeshin is something that can be performed at night, and there we also, although it's a machlokes, Levi is of the opinion that the zar is chayiv misa, and he brings a brisa that supports him as well. The Gemara says, "Tchilas avodah the yamamahi," that Trumas Hadeshin is the beginning of Avodas Hayoim, and therefore is considered to be part of the Avodas Hayoim. The Omar Basi, Omar B'yochanan, Kidesh Yadav the Trumas Hadeshin. If a person was Mekadesh, the Kohen was Mekadesh his Yadayim, and who had in his Raglayim before the Avodah Trumas Hadeshin, L'machar Eino Tzorch Lekadesh Shekvar Kidesh Mitchila Avodah. He says that even the opinion that requires a person to a Kohen to Mekadesh Yadav Raglayim once it's daybreak, after Alos HaShachar, but if he was Mekadesh Yodav Raglayim before the avodah of Trumas Hadeshin, then he doesn't have to go ahead and wash once again, even if it then transpired the daybreak. So you see that indeed Trumas Hadeshin is mitchilas avodah, like Rabbi Yochanan says. Ve'ela kasha. So therefore we're left to the question that we asked before. How can Rabbi Yochanan say that a zar, who then is somebody who does an avodah during the night, that means he's mesader the ma'arocha, that he should be chayiv misa b'dei shomayim? We don't find such a thing, that avodah ksher b'layla is going to be psula b'zar. Answers the Gemara, Ela ki itmar hochi itmar. This is what Rabbi Yochanan was saying. Omar of Asi, Rabbi Yochanan, zar shesider shnei gezirei eitzim chayiv. He says, no, what Rabbi Yochanan meant to say is that a zar and non-kohen who prepares the shtei gezirei eitzim, that means he takes the two logs of wood and he then prepares them, since his avodah is by yoim, he's going to be chayiv misa. Says the Gemara, maski flo Rava. Rava asks, elemiyata tiboi payis. If from now you're saying that avodas hayoim indeed is something that is going to be chayiv the zar misa b'dei shomayim, if that's the case, then it should be chayiv a payis. In other words, if you give such chashivus that it's avodas hayoim, and therefore the zar will be chayiv, then why don't we make a pious if it's such a chashav avodah? Ask the Gemara, ishtamite ha? Did Rava then, was he alluded? Did he forget what indeed the Brisa says? The Tanya misha zocha b'trumas hadeshin. Somebody, the kohen who was zoiche in the Trumas Hadeshin, Yizke b'sei sidur ma'arocho b'sidur shnei gezira eitzim. So we see that the pious is done indeed also for the shnei gezira eitzim. The Gemara says, "Lemember the avodah is yoim boy pious, avodah is laila lo boy pious." Okay, so you're going to say that the avodah hayom requires a pious. That's the emphasis over here. But then that means to say we'll make a diuk that the avodah laila does not require a pious. The harei evarim pedorim. We know that the Eivar and Pedarim does require a pious. It's the fourth of the payosim. Says the Gemara, Soif Avoida Diamamahi. The Avoida of Eivar and Pedarim, as we said before, is the end, it's the Gemar of the day's Avoida. The Gemara now asks, Arei Tumas Hadeshin. What about Tumas Hadeshin? There we have a pious, and it can be done at night, the Tumas Hadeshin. The Gemara says, Mishum Masechet. Now the Gemara could have answered what it said before. That's the beginning of the Avodah. But indeed, the Gemara in the Chav Beis above was doiche this Gemara by saying that you can say that Rabbi Yochanan meant to say not the beginning of the Avodah, but rather it's Tchilas L'Shem the Avodah. So therefore, the Gemara gives an answer according to both Mahalchim by saying Mishum Masechet. There was a Maaseh Shahaya. In other words, originally, when it comes to the Trumas Hadeshin, we said that the first Kohen who comes, then he does Trumas Hadeshin. If there's many Kohanim that come, then there's a foot race. But that led to Sakana. The Mishnah states that as two Kohanim were running close together, stride and stride, that one pushed off the other one and he broke his leg. In fact, the Brisa had told that there were two Kohanim that were running in the foot race, and one saw that the other one was coming closer to the finish line. He not only pushed him, he actually took a knife and he plunged it into his heart. So because of this sakana, the Mishnah states that we make a pious. So indeed, as the Gemara, do we find that there's a pious over here by Trumas Hadeshin? So the Gemara said, yeah, we do, because a Maaseh Shahaya, we do make the pious. Says Gemara, "Lememra the avodah is yoim v'shezar chayiv aleh misa boy pais." Okay, so you're going to say that these two things, avodah hayoim and misa bidei shamayim smechayiv the zar, is going to be chayiv a pais. But ein zar chayiv alav misa lo boy pais. But that means to say that if it's only the zar being chayiv, is going to be chayiv a pais. But if it's not, if it's only avodah hayoim alone, the zar is not going to be chayiv, will not be requiring a pais. V'harei shchita, we know shchita is done, in fact, during the day. It's avodas hayoim, and the zar can do shchita, as we proved earlier, that only from the Kabbalah me'elach, from then onwards, does the kohen have to do the avodah, but the shchita can be done by a non-kohen. So here we see that there is a pious, even though a zar is not going to be chayiv. Says Gemara, shiny shchita dechilas avodahi. Shchita is different. It's the first of the avodos, and therefore it requires a pious. The Gemara says that in regard to Shnei Gezirei Eitzim, which is avodos hayoim, we can prove from our Mishnah and show that indeed that there it's not avodos hayoim. So how can you have Yochanan say that indeed he would be chayiv the zar, chayiv misa for be preparing the Gezirei Eitzim, if it's not an avodas hayoim, it's avodas halayla, as the following Mishnah implies. Omar lahem amamuna, the amamuna, the one, the skana kohanim, he says to the other kohanim, tzu'uru'u imigia zman shchila. He sends them out and he says, go to a high place and determine whether there is light shining in one place in the east. In other words, alos hashachar. V'ilu zman shnei gezira eitzim loktani, and we know the shnei gezira eitzim is avodah before the shchita of the korban tamid, And the Mishnah doesn't mention that he sends them out to determine that it's daytime for that. Elamai, we see from over here that the Shtei Gezira Eitim is a Avodah Shabalayla. And how can therefore Rabbi Yochanan say that a Zar who prepares the Shtei Gezira Eitim is going to be Chayev Misa? Answers the Gemara, you have no proof from this Mishnah because Hach the less lo takanta kitoni. In the case of a korban tamid shel shachar, there's no takana. If a person, the kohen, shechs the korban tamid, thinking that it's yoim and it's not yet yoim, so then it's a posel. They have to burn the korban in the Beis Hapsul. But hach the isle takanta, when it comes to being mesaded the shnei gezira eitzim, if they did do that even before yoim, accidentally, they can go ahead and rearrange it after daybreak. And therefore, it wasn't taught in the Mishnah, lo ketoni. So therefore, you have no proof, and therefore Rabbi Yochanan indeed still has a valid statement based on this, that a zar that is mesad the shtei gizrei eitzim is going to be chayiv misa bidei shomayim.